summer creating a documentary about the formerly incarcerated.
That explains what they did to get in jail and they got out and want to make a change. So we're doing a video on all of that to help the younger generation not do the same thing.
If I asked like a friend or someone that was like, had a little more wisdom than me, they say, yeah, no, this will be a good thing for you. Because then you'll be on the right path. You'll be more into a different world, because it is a different world. Once you're in this, you're like focused on not being in the world of like the community, but you're being more so trying to change it and make it better.
I want to set a good example for my peers. Like, I want to do something productive, something good for a change.
I had a strong foundation. The community was tight. A lot of people back in them days, they seen a young man out of line, they would always put him in line, whether it was one of my mother's church friends, one of the neighbors, or just someone that knew you.
So do you feel like that was a good thing, or it was too much pressure?
Actually, it was a good thing.
It's like, I don't know, like you get like so sidetracked by different things that like don't need your entertainment. Like hanging out with friends all the time, like going out doing this, that, and the third, when really all that matters is really school and like family. Cause what I noticed was like when I started hanging out with friends more, like that's where like my family issues started to come in.
Well, I had my mother and my father, but my father deceased in 1973. He had passed away. I was only 8 years old at the time.
Nationally, over 70% of black children are raised without a father present.
In the capital region, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, 52% through 56% of families with children younger than 18 are headed by women without a father present.
And that was a challenge for me. It was definitely a challenge for me, because now, as youth, I'm struggling to find, actually a male role model. I had my brother, my brother was a role model for me, but not in the sense as a father.
How old was he, your older brother?
Yeah, he's 4 years older than me.
You really need that strong support system from your family. And once you start like giving your attention to like other things, other people that are not important, that could really be gone in a second.
I grew up around a bunch of girls. I got mostly everybody in my family is girls. I'm the youngest and I'm a boy. And I more or less was doing a lot of crazy stuff to keep people up off my sisters. You dare to mess with Pop's sister. Because Pop gonna come get you.
When was the first time you entered the prison system?
First time I entered the prison system was in 1983. I was a graduate from Albany High. And I was working at Red Lobster at the time. And a friend of mine, he was gambling and lost all his money. So he asked me to loan him some money because he knew I worked. And he was a good friend, so I loaned him some of my money, you know, and he lost it. You know, like, it was like all my hard-earned money went right before my eyes. But later that night, he said that he wanted to do something, which was, you know, commit a crime, you know, and he asked me would I be down to go with him, you know, and he didn't necessarily put it in them words, but he said he knew a spot where he could get some merchandise from and sell it, you know, to get my money back, and would I get in the car with him? So I got in the car with him, and we went and did a burglary, and that was my first bid in 1983.
First of all, my take on peer pressure is that it's very strong and it impacts, you know, teenagers. It starts attacking, you know, probably in middle school, and it just, you know, keeps rolling. And, you know, usually the teenagers and younger, the little kids, you know, my generation and younger fall victim because, you know, it's just, you know, too much to handle and nobody really pays attention to that nowadays.
Following television because that's what they see that's going on. Like they want the lifestyle that other people that's living in.
Everything on you know, TV and everything that's said and spoken is the opposite. You know, doing wrong is right. You know, acting, you know, a certain type of way, talking a certain type of way that's really not respectful. You know, that's right. That's in now. That's being cool.
I had an idol, and he just wasn't a good idol. Okay. The guy, his name was Kato. He was in the Tomahawks, you know, and I just liked that dude's style, you know, where he walked. Every time I see him, you know, he got 4 or 5 dudes around him, 4 or 5 women, you know, they all clean, you know. I was attracted to that, you know, and that's what more or less got me into crime. First time I received a pistol, which was given to me by, you know, I'm not gonna say no names, but you know, it was given to me, my first 25 automatic. And I seen how things was when a person robbed somebody. I seen the expressions on their face when they seen a gun. So that was my first time getting that first gun, and I knew what it could do. And I was off and running after that.
In 2011, between January 1st and August 31st, there were 22 shootings in the city of Albany involving 23 victims and 1 fatality.
In Miami, Florida. I moved to New York, a place called Liberty, New York, at the age of 12. I went to school there, graduated, got accepted with a scholarship at UAlbany, played football for 3 years before I got into crime and drugs and went to prison.
Things that the youth try to follow that's on the TV is the money-wise. Like everybody's trying to find a quick way to get rich or be part of that type of lifestyle to be famous.
Not being patient, wanting more than I was supposed to have at the time, being around people that was affluent and not measuring up in my own eyes to them, wanting to cut corners, and not having a mentor or a person that could make me think that I wasn't the smartest person in the whole world. That I couldn't get anything I want because of my heart desire. My brain couldn't figure a way out to get it for me, illegally or legally. You know what I mean? So I took a lot of shortcuts that in hindsight I would have never did if I could have really thought them through. I thought about the results, not the actions or the consequences at the time.
Trials and tribulations that I went through when I came home from being incarcerated. I was domiciled, meaning homeless. I was put in a mission. I had to reunify with my children. You know what I'm saying? I went through various barriers, to try to excel through different programs.
I'm going through that day with my family. They don't even know me. I done been in prison so much in their life, in my life. They don't really know me. You know what I mean? They don't really know me. I done been in prison so long, and I'm coming out still, trying to get to know them. And it's hard. A lot of things that, even when I speak about certain things, and even though I'm right, and they know I'm right, they'll throw that in my face. How you know? Spend mostly more than half your life in prison. How the hell you want to tell me something? I've been surviving doing this all these years. How you want to tell me what I feel is right? I've been doing it this long when you was in prison. So they don't really want to, like, whatever you say, they don't even want to look at it. My son, he don't even want to talk to me. He don't want to have nothing to do with me, because I wasn't even in his life, over 25 years. So
I spent over a decade in prison. It affected my family because they went in jail with me because of visits and supported me financially, spiritually, and mentally to get me through that. It affected me with an overall record. I happen to live with a criminal record and people doing background searches every time I couldn't explain why a decade of my life is missing on the application, that I wasn't working or I wasn't visible during that decade. So it cost me a lot.
My experience with looking for a job, I've been unemployed since October 1st of 2011, and it's not pretty. You can see by the scruff on my face that it's really taking a toll on me. Seeing that it's difficult for me, and I'm a high school student, it really got to be hard for inmates that just came out of jail.
Piece of wisdom that I would like to leave to the youth is that you have one life to live and you have to live it to your fullest potential. When you get pushed, work harder. Know that there's no limitation, you know what I'm saying, for you to excel in life. There's many burdens and many weights that we're gonna carry on our shoulder. But amongst the struggle and adversity, we come out stronger. So I felt that it was very important for me to make some kind of contribution, to my community by giving back, even if it's some knowledge.
That prison was any better back then, but it definitely ain't better now. It's getting worse in prison today, and you don't want to get caught up in that. Because once you get caught up in it, it's so hard to get out of it. Your life is messed up. Once you get them felonies on your record, misdemeanors and all that, your chances on getting things in life, things that you really want to do, and even it stops that. And it's going to be a time when you're going to get tired of doing what you're doing today, and it's going to be too late because you already got them felonies and everything on your record. And that's going to be a hard hurdle to get over. So I would say, man, don't be like me, sitting 50 years later, talking about I wish I knew then what I know now. You don't want to be me. You know what I mean? You don't want to be me. Take it what it's worth. But I'm telling you, You don't want to be in a position that I'm in. You don't want to get that first felony. You don't want to get none of that on your record. Because if you don't, when you get older and you really want to start doing the right thing, those felonies and those misdemeanors is going to stop.
If I would have had a message like 50 Cent put out in the beginning of this movie, if you could take the time that you're going to spend in jail versus what you get for going to jail in a nickel and dime situation, it's better to work at McDonald's for minimum wage and get a paycheck every week and be free than to get hundreds of thousands of dollars and spend the rest of your life in jail, subject to death, subject to a man's ability to tell you when to eat, when to go to bed, when to defecate, and all that stuff, be subject to gang violence, and all that stuff. It's better to be free, clear, here, than to be having millions in the future of what you could have had. That's the biggest message. If I would have had a message like that and listened to it and let it penetrate my mind, McDonald's is not an affluent job, but for minimum wage, it's better to be free and be able to not look over your shoulder for the police. Go to church, find a message in something else besides yourself, and live free. You know what I mean? And protect yourself from all the other things that's out here.
First business that a man has is with his family, you know. And if a man don't run the course with his family right, he's not going to be a good businessman. Because everything starts with family. This is why I chose this spot. Because everything starts with family. Even when things get out of whack outside, you know, come back to family.
I lived the so-called thug life, gangster life for the majority of my life. Which led to jails and institutions and almost death.
It was like, yo, you have a story to tell. You need to tell it. Let people know what's going on. Save those youth. Give back.